Hey, what's up guys? This is Colin Reese. The U.S. men's national team roster for the October World Cup qualifiers came out yesterday, and I wanted to talk about what I think the real problem with the U.S. men's national team is and what they need to fix. I've talked about this a little before, but not in much detail. So this new roster includes several players that many members of like the fan media and people that are really vocal on Twitter have been calling for. So Gregg Berhalter called in Luca de la Torre, who is a pretty creative and active attacking midfielder that can play a couple places in the midfield. He looks to be really dynamic and creative, and he likes to get forward, and he's pretty direct. And then in addition to Luca de la Torre, people were calling for, to a lesser extent, Gianluca Busio, who plays in Serie A for Venezia, but he played for the U.S. in the Gold Cup. And obviously with this roster, the U.S. is missing not only Christian Pulisic, but Gio Reyna, and both are injured. And there's some sort of question mark about whether either one of them are going to be coming in later during these three games. If somehow like maybe Christian Pulisic and maybe Gio Reyna will be ready at some point before the three games are over and can feature in the third game or something. And there's also the issue of whether the English Premier League is going to let its players play in Panama. And supposedly tomorrow, so after this video is already out, they're going to possibly be lifting that restriction on English Premier League players going to Panama. But nevertheless, the real problem with the U.S. men's national team is the way that Gregg Berhalter has his formation set up with the 4-3-3. And I'm not going to talk about like the 3-4-3 and the 3-5-2. Those are kind of alternative lineups that he uses, but like his main one is the 4-3-3. And the issue with the 4-3-3 is that the two more like advanced central midfielders are playing, pretty close to the sideline wide. And then Tyler Adams, who's the defensive midfielder, who's at the base of the midfield, he's in the middle of the field. Like if you cut it vertically, he's there. And the other two central midfielders are really like playing like outside midfielders. And they're kind of over by the sideline, and they don't have as much room to operate. And frequently they don't have as many passing options, and kind of the only option frequently is to pass it just up the sideline to one of the wings. And this is actually the reason that so many people were complaining that Sebastian Lletget wasn't playing enough forward passes. I don't think he actually had people to pass to, and nor were the wings cutting like centrally for him to play some sort of diagonal ball to. So I think he was pretty pinned to the sideline or really deep. And so he was nowhere close to like being in the final third where he could play some sort of final ball or through ball. And so I think the issue with these central midfielders playing wide, and then the front three having two wingers and a striker, there's this huge hole in the center of the field. And I call it the 10-sized hole, because this is the spot where an attacking midfielder, a number 10, should be playing. And the reason our midfield's not linked up with the attack is because there's no one being started in this position. There's just this big hole. It's like no man's land in the center of the field. So we don't have someone operating in that space where they could be, combining with the wings and then playing final balls to the striker or the wings. And this little tactical setup is the problem with the team. And so in these coming games, since both Christian Pulisic and Gio Reyna are out, and since Brendan Aronson is really a second striker as a wing, I think the U.S. should be using Sebastian Lletget in the middle as the 10. And so if we were using like a 4-2-3, 4-2-3-1 formation, this would be Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie as the 2, and then a line of 3 attacking midfielders. So Brenden Aaronson on the right, Sebastian Lletget in the middle as the center attacking midfielder, and then on the left, Timothy Weah is, you know, the left wing or the left attacking midfielder. And then at striker, there'd be Ricardo Pepi. And so with this setup, you have a number 10 that's actually in the middle of the park that can play final balls. And this is where Lletget really operates the best. And if we saw that he played his best when he was closer to goal and able to combine with the attackers and play more in the final third instead of being like stuck really deep in the midfield and not having many passing options, and there being a ton of distance before he's close to the final third. So it took a ton of work to get anywhere near a spot where you can play a final ball. So with these games coming up, I think if we play Lletget behind Ricardo Pepi, then that's one option. The other option is to use a diamond 4-4-2 formation. And this would be Tyler Adams at the base of the midfield, and then Yunus Musa and Weston McKennie in front of him as the box-to-box midfielders, like on the sides. And then at the tip of the diamond, that'd be Sebastian Lletget. And then for the 2 forwards, it would be Ricardo Pepi and Brenden Aaronson, or it could be Pepi and Weah, or it could be Pepi and Hoppy. I'm trying to fit Aaronson in the lineup because he's been scoring so many goals, and and in addition to scoring goals, he's always really dangerous, and he puts the defense on their heels, and he gets in scoring position. So I think he deserves to start. And if he was starting up top with Pepi, he'd be playing as like a second striker, and that's kind of the perfect position for him. So